What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, man. I hope you guys are having a great day. It's currently Saturday, and what better day to re-update the NBA power rankings for this channel, man. It's been about 2 weeks since we did the last one. I'm going to try and do them, like I mentioned in the last video, more frequently. So this is a 2-week span. We're going to try and do them every 2 to 3 weeks and really update what's going on, especially down the stretch. There's going to be a lot of movement in both conferences. Seedings are on the line, all that stuff. So I figured, why not hop on here and update this week's power rankings for the NBA. We're going to start at number 10. It was the Sacramento Kings. It's now the New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Pelicans are number 5 in the Western Conference. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. They did lose last night to the Miami Heat. I'm sure you guys saw that all over social media because of the fight. But they've been playing really well. They're getting back healthy. Zion is still playing basketball this late into a season, which is pretty impressive. And so for me, they move up to 10. They weren't previously ranked. Moving on to number 9, it was the Bucks. It's now the Knicks. The Knicks have fallen down this list. How many spots? 3 spots. They were at 7, 8, and now they're 9th. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. OG Anunoby's out. Obviously, he should be trending towards at least being looked at to come back. I think Julius Randle, I believe, is still out. And so they were obviously Jalen Brunson is there, so they're going to be able to compete in games. But I think they fall down a couple of spots. Haven't been playing their best ball lately. Lost a couple key games. And so for me, they moved down from 7 to 9. Number 8 was the 76ers, and I'm just let you know now they're no longer on the list. They were going to make the list. I was slowly moving them down 1 spot each time. But listen, man, without Embiid, this team was clearly not the same. We all knew that. I was holding out hope for them, for their other players, Tyrese Maxey and those guys. They obviously signed Kyle Lowry to maybe give them a push. But let me look at the stats that I have written down over here. They are 4-6 in their last 10. They're on a 2-game losing streak at the time of this recording. And so, listen, without Embiid, and it's no shame to them, man, without your best player, you're not going to be the best version of your team. And so, for me, they fall off. But now the new number 8 team is the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks are currently 6th in the Western Conference. They are 8-2 in their last 10 games, and they are on a 7-game win streak. That's really impressive. Also, I think the thing that really sticks out, too, is obviously Luka being a MVP candidate this year. On top of that, the trades they made this season at the deadline have really, really, really worked out well for them. Kyrie has come back and played really well for them as well. Really tough team. Obviously, the defensive side is always going to need work when you have someone like Luka Doncic not really being the best defensive player and not really trying on the defensive end. And so I still think overall when you have that much talent on a team, they're a top 10 team. And so they went from off to on again at the number 8 spot. Moving on to the 7th spot, like we mentioned before, it was the Knicks, and now it's the Bucks. The Bucks are currently on a 1-game win streak. They're 4-6 in their last 10. Not the best records. Obviously, a 1-game win streak is nothing crazy. They just won their last game. 4-6 is not something that you look at and say, oh, that's really good. Obviously, the Knicks have a better last 10-game record. But here's why I have them so high. They're not in the top 5. They're a top 10 team, though. Doc Rivers, obviously, the whole thing with J.J. Redick blew up with him calling him out on First Take for not having accountability. We're not here to get into that. This is purely statistical and what we look at based on the eye test. The eye test for the Milwaukee Bucks pre-trade deadline and pre-All-Star break, the defense was absolutely garbage. It was absolutely garbage. Doc Rivers came, and now they're a top 12 defense. It's just as simple as that. At the time of this recording, they are a top 12 defense. They have really turned it around from 0. They went from an outhouse to the penthouse on the defensive side of the ball. And so when that happens, obviously the offensive side of the ball can be worked on while you still have a defense to have, be able to take care of the times where the offense isn't clicking because it's still a new team. I know they're what are we, 50, almost 60 games into the season. Obviously, that's a lot of games, but for a guy this is his first year out of an organization that he was with his whole career in Damian Lillard, new coach for Giannis, everything is just different for Milwaukee right now. Chris Middleton obviously hasn't been fully healthy this year. He's getting back, trending to that point, and so I think all things look up for the Bucks. But for right now, they're not a top 5 team. They're a top 10 team. Moving on to number 6, it was the Clippers. It's now the Nuggets. The Nuggets, I do believe, if I have this correctly, dropped down to the 4th seed in the Western Conference behind Clippers, Oklahoma City, and Minnesota. They're on a 6-4 of their last 10. They've won the last 2 games. Behind the 3 teams above them in the Western Conference, they're all, excuse me, on a 7-3 last 10-game win streak. All of them are on win streaks at the current time of this recording. And you're going to see a lot of them above the Nuggets. But listen, man, you cannot have a team with Nikola Jokic on it that's not on the top 10. It's just that simple. The guy could be playing with a bunch of G Leaguers, and they would still probably be a top 10 team just because how good he is. Moving on to number 5. It was the Cavaliers. It's still the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers, if I do have this correct, 7-3 in their last 10 games. They have lost their last 2 games in a row, though. They are out Donovan Mitchell. So I think that's a key part. They obviously are a different team when he's not there, when your best player is not there. We've talked about it. You're not the same team. You can't be the best version of your team, but they are still really stout on the defensive end. I do think the offensive end could use a little bit of work going off of Garland and Mitchell. Obviously, they're still doing well enough to be the 2nd team in the Eastern Conference, so there's no worries there. I just do think could clean it up a little bit. Every team could have something that's cleaned up a little bit, and so that's why they haven't moved up for me, just based on that. Moving on to the top 4 teams. Number 4, it was the Timberwolves. It's now the Clippers. The Clippers, man, are not playing around ever since they traded for James Harden. They're 37-18 overall. They are 7-3 in their last 10, and they have won 2 games in a row in a tough Western Conference. That is not something that you can take lightly, man. They are playing really, really, really good basketball. I do enjoy watching them play whenever I can catch them playing a little bit of an earlier game. I'm going to keep it real with you. I got to catch a lot of highlights on YouTube for Western Conference teams just because I can't stay up. Your boy getting old. And so, but the Clippers, from what I have been able to see, and the record speaks for itself, man, 39-17 is not something to flinch at. That is a really good record. They are 2 games behind, they're 37-18, still nothing to flinch at. They are a game behind in the loss column and 2 games behind in the win column to being first place in the Western Conference, man. So they're playing really good ball, and they deserve to be the top 4 team. Moving on to number 3, it was the Nuggets. It's now the Thunder. The Thunder are the number 2 team in the Western Conference with a record of 39-17, 7-3 in their last 10, and they're on a 4-game win streak. They played somebody on Thursday. I can't forget. First games after All-Star break. I forget who they played on Thursday, man, but I was mesmerized watching this team. Jalen Williams had a crazy block in the game. Was it the Clippers? I can't remember who they played. Dude, it was an awesome, fun game. Really fun, really energetic team for the Thunder, man. Obviously, they're nothing to flinch at. They are real. They are here, and they still have a crap ton of picks to either make a move next year to get a highly rated player or to continue drafting and building it out their own way. But, man, they deserve to be the number 3 team in this week's power rankings. Moving on to number 2. Number 2 and number 1 are no surprise. Number 2 is the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are 39-17, the exact same record as the Thunder, 7-3 in their last 10, but they just lost their most recent game, and I think they've been a little up and down as well. Obviously, the defense is something that you look at with Minnesota, and you know it's going to be there. Obviously, in my opinion, though, I know a lot of people think that the Timberwolves are going to be slept on coming into the playoff race. Listen, man, this is almost exactly the same thing, minus a little bit of a better supporting cast around in Minnesota. This is almost verbatim what happened in Utah every single year. Maybe not as high of a clip as this, but listen, man, I have to see them play in the playoffs to actually take them seriously. Rudy Gobert in the playoffs, we all know what happens. It happens every single year. We get all excited. He's a DPOY player. We get all that. But then it comes to the playoffs, and it's just a different game in the playoffs of basketball. And so he often gets exploited on the defensive end. So until I see them be able to do it in the playoffs, I am not sure how well they're going to be. Obviously, the talent is there, so they're not going to lose in the first round. I could see them maybe losing in a 7-game series in the second round. I just don't see them going far. And to be quite honest with you, Anthony Edwards is obviously a wonderful player, but he's a bit up and down and inconsistent. But listen, it's hard to be consistent in this league, okay? Not everybody is Jokic. Not everybody is LeBron, who's just consistently putting up these crazy stats. And so that's something I want to talk about a little bit more as we get into the channel. But we're not going to talk about that now. I don't want to piss anybody off and make anybody mad about their favorite player. I'm a Tatum fan, so listen, I get it. I understand all the hate. You're tired of hearing about it. So we're not going to talk about it, but that is why I have them at 2. And remember, we talked about this. Nitpicking is a big thing when you get into these top 10 teams. They're all so good, especially when you're talking about top 5 teams in the NBA. They're so good, so you have to nitpick a little bit. But moving on to number 1, they've been number 1. They'll stay number 1 until they get knocked off. The Boston Celtics remain at number 1. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They're on a 7-game win streak. They're 44-12. Obviously, the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They continue to play really well. As a Celtics fan, though, I do get worried with the health of Kristaps Porzingis. Obviously, I am their biggest critic because of the fact of how many games I've watched. We played Chicago on Thursday night, and we were up 17 going into half, I believe, and then they, right before half, and then they whittled it down, and like they were up 2. So, obviously, this has been a thing with the Celtics where they continue to blow leads. I was hoping with the addition of Jrue Holiday being a more of a floor general type of point guard that we wouldn't have as many of these. And to be fair, we haven't. Obviously, they come back to win by, I think, like 15 plus. So, they were able to weather the storm and continue to win the game. So, that's all that matters at the end. But I look forward, and I know everyone looks forward to the playoffs, and you say this cannot happen in the playoffs. Now, can it happen one game? Sure. But the Celtics tend to do this thing where it happens one game and then it bleeds into the other game, and then they barely win the next game. And so the Celtics, to me, obviously are going to be graded by how they do in the playoffs. I'm not scared of that. I'm aware of that. And so the Celtics, for me, they definitely have to look themselves in the mirror at some point and really decide whether or not they're going to buckle down and be a defensive team or an offensive team. Obviously, they have the ability to be really good at both. They're the number 5 net team in terms of offense and defense in total. If you look at that efficiency landscape thing that goes around Twitter, what is it? Every couple weeks, every couple months, whatever. And so I do think for them, obviously, they are by far and away the number 1 team talent-wise, but they definitely still have some of that stuff where, things can go wrong, and if they will go wrong, they typically do go wrong. So, like I said, man, there's really nothing much to be said. They're going to be judged on how they perform in the playoffs. It's pretty much championship or bust. I am well aware of that. I do agree with that, with the rules they've made. But for now, at the current time, they are the most dominant team in the NBA. They're the best team in the NBA. And I want to know where you guys think I'm wrong, where you guys think I'm right. I do appreciate you guys with the last couple of videos have done really well, especially the NFL mock draft. If you want to see another version of those, depending on if you want to see more rounds of the draft, I'd have to go redo the first round. But if you want to see more of the NFL content, draft content, let me know, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.